Back in 1480 in Romania, Prince Vlad is happily married to Elizabetha. To show his love, he gives her a small music box. One day, their private time is interrupted when knights drag Vlad away. He is needed for battle. The country is at war, and with the enemy closing in, Vlad tells his men to take Elizabetha to another castle for safety. Before leaving, Vlad gets a blessing from the Pope and prays for his wife's protection. While Elizabetha is being escorted to the forest, an enemy soldier hiding in the trees kills 2 guards with arrows. The remaining guards fight back and push Elizabetha ahead to safety. Outside the woods, Vlad breaks oil barrels to start a fire, creating a barrier to hold back the enemy army. A brutal battle breaks out, and men from both sides die, but Vlad's army clearly has the upper hand. Using skill and teamwork, they start winning. Soon Vlad and his army face the enemy king, showing off all their defeated foes. But Vlad gets news that Elizabetha is under attack, and he rushes to her. Elizabetha rides as fast as she can, chased by enemy soldiers. This part of the forest is full of hidden bear traps under the snow. 2 soldiers fall into traps, but Elizabetha dodges them, at least at first. Unfortunately, her horse gets caught in a trap, and she falls. The enemies surround her carefully, testing the ground with their swords. She tries to move, but steps on another trap. Vlad arrives, but his horse is also caught. He fights 2 soldiers on foot and defeats them, then throws his sword to stop an enemy near Elizabetha, but accidentally hits her instead. Heartbroken, Vlad cradles her as she dies. Later, Vlad visits the Pope, furious at God for not protecting Elizabetha. Despite all his killings in God's name, he begs for a miracle the Pope can't give. In a rage, Vlad kills the Pope with a crucifix and declares he won't follow God unless Elizabetha is brought back. Suddenly, the wind swirls and a Jesus statue cries, but Vlad looks proud and his terrified men drag him away. Fast forward 400 years to France. A priest visits a psychiatric clinic to talk to Dr. Diant about a very delicate case, one that even worries the Queen of England. They walk through corridors full of misbehaving patients being forcefully controlled by staff. Eventually, they enter a sealed room through a steel door where Maria is chained. She's an Italian woman engaged to the Queen's great-nephew. The wedding took place at her family estate because she refused the church. When a bishop showed up, she freaked out. Records say Maria was born in 1759, which would make her 130 years old. Her reaction to God makes them suspect she might be a creature of the devil. As they discuss her case, Maria wakes and hisses. The priest sees her fangs and realizes she's a vampire. He explains she's the first vampire caught alive, and that vampires can go out in daylight, just not under direct sun rays. To prove it, he opens a window and her skin burns. When he holds a crucifix to her face, it catches fire. Then, he cuts his assistant Simon's finger and lets a few drops of blood fall into Maria's mouth to make her cooperate. Checking her neck, he sees the bite marks that turned her. The priest says the church has been fighting vampires for centuries but hasn't found the first one. Maria, craving more blood, mentions that her master, the first vampire, is a prince who will soon arrive in the city searching for his princess. Meanwhile, Notary Jonathan travels through a forest at night. The coach driver stops, warning that wolves are nearby, and leaves Jonathan with a torch, a crucifix, and his luggage. Jonathan walks the rest of the way, using the torch to keep wolves at bay, until he reaches a huge castle. As he enters, the gate closes automatically. Another door opens and shuts on its own, leading him to a room where someone stands on a balcony, but vanishes in a flash of lightning. Suddenly, an old man appears behind him, throws his torch away, turns on the lights, and introduces himself as Prince Vlad, Count Dracula. They sit at the table. Jonathan happily digs into the food, but Dracula doesn't eat. With a wave of his hand, Dracula sends a plate toward Jonathan, who thinks it's just a trick. Jonathan digs through his bag for some paperwork, and while he's distracted, Dracula kills a rat with a fork, crushes it by hand, and pours its blood into his cup to drink. Jonathan explains that the county he represents is interested in buying an old abbey in Paris that belongs to Dracula, planning to turn it into a hospital. As he takes out more papers, he accidentally drops his crucifix. Dracula asks if he believes in God, and Jonathan admits he doesn't. It was just given to him by the coach. With a flick of his hand, Dracula throws the crucifix into fire and suddenly appears beside Jonathan, saying it's time for bed. Jonathan is taken to his chambers and told not to leave the room during the night. Dracula then goes back to the dining room, plays some music, and instructs a gargoyle to keep watch. While in his room, Jonathan finds a book about the castle's history. There's a drawing of young Vlad, but the prince's portrait is missing. Meanwhile, the priest visits Maria's fiancé, Henry, and says Maria is healthy, though they're still working to remove the evil from her. Searching Maria's room for more clues, the priest finds the missing book page with Elizabeth's portrait. Late at night, Jonathan leaves his room and notices a light behind a door. He follows it to creepy stairs leading down to a fancy basement. In the center, there's a coffin. When he opens it, he finds Dracula sleeping. The Count tells him he shouldn't have left his room, and suddenly a gargoyle knocks Jonathan out. When he wakes, he's chained upside down while Dracula slashes his neck, letting blood drip into a bowl. Shocked, Jonathan wonders how God could create such a creature. Dracula laughs disturbingly and asks for his last wish. Jonathan wants to hear Dracula's story, which amuses the Count so much that he orders the gargoyles to release him. Dracula begins to tell what happened, recalling Elizabetha's funeral. He explains that he has spent centuries waiting for her, knowing that pure souls can reincarnate. The search hasn't been easy. During the Black Plague, half the women died, and the rest were in holy places where he couldn't go. He became so lonely that he envied humans for being able to die. One day, he fell asleep on Elizabetha's grave. The next morning, in despair, he tried to kill himself by jumping from a window, but survived. He kept trying over and over, but he could never die. Unable to search the entire world for Elizabetha, Dracula devised a plan to draw her to him. Over a century, he created a perfume from the most beautiful and magical flowers in the world. When he tested it in Italy, women started following him. The fragrance was so strong that at parties, he could make everyone dance under his control. One day in Versailles, he thought he found Elizabetha, but the woman wasn't her. The mistake made him realize he had been chasing parties and pleasure, not true love. Dracula decided to make others do the searching for him. At one party, he turned many women, including Maria, into vampires. Afterwards, he returned to Elizabetha's grave, smashed her coffin, and found only ashes. Heartbroken, he vowed never to leave the castle again. His gargoyles would bring him riches, and his vampires would continue searching. Back in the present, Jonathan tells Dracula he understands strong love because he's engaged. His locket has a picture of his fiancée, Mina. Dracula looks at it and is overcome with emotion. Mina is the reincarnation of his wife. He decides to let Jonathan live, thanking him for reuniting him with his love. Dracula orders his gargoyles to bring him lots of blood, so he can look perfect before meeting Elizabetha. Meanwhile, in Paris, the priest shows Dumont the portrait he found, saying they need to locate the woman who looks like it to capture Dracula. He reads that God can refuse death in cases of blasphemy, but can also forgive true repentance, which would lift the curse. This means if Dracula is killed, all his vampires will become human again. Just then, Simon enters and spots a portrait, noticing a woman who looks exactly like in the visitor's area. Dumont and the priest rush over and meet Mina, who says she's a close friend of Maria's. They met a few days ago at a party, and ever since, Maria hasn't left Dracula's side. Maria had always been sweet, but at her wedding, she completely lost it when she saw the bishop. Mina admits she has doubts about her own wedding, because she feels out of place in this time. At the abbey, Dracula shows up disguised as a homeless man, and the nuns agree to shelter him. But the moment he steps into the chapel, he drops the disguise and sprays his perfume on a statue of Jesus. All the nuns rush in, fall to their knees, and become overwhelmed by desire. They form a pile around Dracula, desperate for his attention, and he doesn't hesitate to feed on them. Back at the castle, Jonathan waits until he's alone. He throws a blanket over some tools to bring them closer and break his chains. A gargoyle enters and spots him climbing out the window. It cuts the blanket, but Jonathan holds onto the wall. The gargoyles try to reach him through holes, but fail, so one hits him with a hook. Jonathan falls, rolls through the snow, and stops on a frozen lake. When a gargoyle tries to follow, the ice breaks and it drowns. Seeing this, Jonathan walks away without fear. Later, Dracula shows up at the psychiatric clinic, looking younger and healthier. Using his perfume, he controls Simon and has him lead him to Maria's room. Maria tells Dracula she's found Elizabetha, and he rewards her by letting her feed on Simon. The next morning, the priest finds a picture lad while doing research. Soon, the priest is called to the clinic. Dumont says Maria has disappeared. Simon has turned into a vampire and is tied to a bed. The priest notices Simon's fangs and the strong scent of perfume on his clothes. When Dumont describes the intruder who took Maria, the priest realizes Mina is in danger. At her boarding house, Mina opens the door to find Maria looking healthy. Maria explains that Dumont discharged her and that she has a friend eager to meet Mina. She helps Mina change into nicer clothes, and together they go to a hotel where Dracula is waiting. Seeing his wife again makes Dracula cry. After showering Mina with compliments, he kisses her hand, giving her a vision of them together. Feeling uneasy, Mina pulls her hand back and leaves with Maria to enjoy the festival. Dracula follows them as they have fun, eating, drinking, playing games, watching a show about a fake mermaid, and seeing cute animals. At a haunted house, the women get separated, and Mina screams when startled by a fake skeleton. Dracula appears immediately and guides her out. At a shooting booth, he teaches her how to shoot, and in his embrace, Mina has another vision of the past. Later, Dracula invites them to rest in his hotel room before the fireworks show. He shows Mina a little music box and plays the song. Mina feels it's familiar and begins having visions of being Elizabetha. She pulls back, accusing Dracula of putting a spell on her. Dracula tries to explain Elizabetha's story in his hope for her reincarnation, but Mina insists she's just Mina. He ends the conversation by gifting her the music box. Maria then drags Mina to watch the fireworks. At the end of the night, Dracula walks Mina home, leaving her smiling. But her happiness vanishes when she finds the priest and Dumont tending to a sick Jonathan. The priest explains what happened to her fiancé, but Mina refuses to believe Dracula could be cruel. The priest then explains that Dracula is a vampire who drinks human blood and uses perfume to control victims. He checks Mina's neck and finds no bite marks. Mina rushes to her room to cry and opens the music box, getting more visions of Elizabetha. She snaps out of it when Dracula appears beside her. Mina asks him to leave, and Dracula tries to climb out the window. Thinking he might harm himself, she makes him stop. She accuses him of tricking her, but Dracula assures her he never used the perfume on her and throws the bottle into the fire. Mina brings up the blood-sucking, and Dracula admits he does it, but promises she will never be his victim. When Mina's nose starts bleeding, Dracula picks up the blood and licks it off. Dracula takes Mina's hand and whispers romantic things as the visions come back. Hearing the last words he said to Elizabetha, Mina finally accepts the memories as her own. She calls Dracula her love and kisses him. Things get intimate, and Mina asks to become immortal too. Dracula bites her, turning her into a vampire. At that moment, the priest smells the same perfume he noticed in the hospital and realizes Dracula is in the house. He grabs a gun and rushes to Mina's room, but it's empty. The priest and Dumont figured Dracula must have taken her back to his castle, and Jonathan agrees to lead them there. Meanwhile, Maria reunites with Henry. She acts affectionate to distract him, and just as she's about to bite him, the priest group shows up. Maria roars in anger, ready to attack, so the priest shoots her. But she recovers quickly, knocks Henry down, and captures the priest. Jonathan grabs a sword from the wall and decapitates Maria. Her head flies off, hitting Dion, while her body struggles with the priest before finally collapsing. To make sure she's gone for good, the priest stabs her heart with a crucifix. In Romania, servants bring a coffin into Dracula's castle. Dracula and Mina emerge, and he gives her a tour. She plays the music from the box and puts on Elizabetha's dress. Outside the castle, the priest and his soldiers arrive. They wait for the servants to leave, then rush in. Cannons and gunfire hit the castle, causing parts of it to crumble. Dracula tells Mina to stay in a safe room, but she's terrified as cannonballs smash her ceiling. The gargoyles go down to fight the soldiers, taking them out one by one. But the army is too big, and the humans keep advancing, slowly taking over the castle. Jonathan leads his friends to the basement, while soldiers search upstairs. Mina sees them coming and locks her door. In the basement, soldiers fire at the coffin, but Dracula appears behind Jonathan and knocks him out, calling him ungrateful. He quickly fights the soldiers with his sword, taking them down one by one. More soldiers arrive, but Dracula kills them too. Henry tries to shoot him with two guns at once, but it doesn't work. Dracula jumps on him and bites his neck. Dracula closes the door with a flick of his hand to stop more soldiers from coming and holds the priest at sword point. The priest tells him that God never wanted him to kill because God doesn't want a creation destroyed. People kill for themselves, not for God. He says he was sent to save Dracula, but Dracula points out that his only salvation is Mina. The priest warns that Dracula will be Mina's damnation. Hearing Mina scream, Dracula rushes to her, asking his gargoyles to hold off the soldiers. While they fight in the hall, Dracula kills all the soldiers in the quarter. Then he bursts into Mina's room and hugs her. The priest tries to follow, but Dracula closes the door. The priest reminds him that true love means doing the right thing. Ignoring Mina's pleas, Dracula leaves the room and locks her inside. The priest prays and drives a stake through Dracula's heart. Mina drags Dracula into the room so they can share final words of love. Dracula turns to ash, all the castle lights go out, and the gargoyles transform into human children. Jonathan comes looking for Mina and finds her crying as the ashes blow away. Heartbroken, he walks off. Outside, Dracula's ashes spread in the wind. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss more videos like this. Thanks for watching.